Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving deep into something I think we all wrestle with, probably more often than we'd like. It's the art of letting go for inner peace. How do we navigate this constant stream of opinions, misunderstandings, maybe even like daily conflicts without losing our cool? Our mission, really, is to pull out some vital skills from our sources. Skills to help you achieve, well, a more tranquil life. And let's be clear, protecting your emotional space, it's not selfish, not at all.
Mm.
It's actually fundamental mindful self-care. So the big question is, in a world filled with just constant noise and, external pressures, how do we find, and maybe more importantly, how do we maintain that crucial inner stillness? Let's try and unlock some answers.
Okay, so let's unpack this first really powerful idea that came up. It's about cultivating a principle-centered mindset. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, the core of letting go, maybe surprisingly, isn't really about shutting the world out. It's more about returning to and really strengthening our authentic self. When we build strong internal principles, our values, they act like a bedrock.
Yeah, bedrock. Exactly. Think of it not so much as rigid rules, but more like your own personal operating system. This system helps you process everything coming at you externally, but without, losing your own configuration. It stops us from being just blown about by every opinion or reaction we encounter.
So it's not about being stubborn.
No, no,
Yeah.
not at all. It's about creating a really solid foundation for your mind.
Hmm.
And the source material uses this great analogy, uh, like bamboo that bends without breaking.
Mm.
It suggests that, like, resilient flexibility. We can listen, absolutely. We can learn, we can even adapt, but we don't snap under pressure because that core identity, those principles, they stay intact. We sway, but the roots hold firm.
That bamboo image is really powerful. So, okay, for you listening, someone who maybe feels constantly sort of pushed around by external stuff, how do you actually begin? How do you find those core principles to build that inner compass? Is there a practical first step?
Oh, definitely. A good way to start is to look at moments of real joy and also moments of deep discomfort or frustration. What values were really shining through when you felt happiest? And conversely, what values felt like violated when you were truly upset?
Ah, interesting. Looking at the extremes.
Exactly. They often point directly to what you intrinsically hold dear. Another way is just to ask yourself directly, what defines me, regardless of what others expect? What do I stand for? Even if it's not the popular view. Just defining these things starts to bring this incredible clarity. It helps you instantly filter out criticism or demands that just don't align with who you are. They
Yeah.
become like a clear signal through all the static.
That's a great way to put it. Reflection becomes a filter. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Here's where it gets maybe a little challenging for some of us. Our source calls it one of life's greatest traps. And that's the expectation, the assumption that other people should just know and respect our feelings, even if we haven't said anything, or maybe even if their actions weren't about us at all.
Yes, and this really highlights a critical distinction about control. It's so important. We simply cannot control what others do or say. We can ask, sure, we can suggest, but ultimately their choices are theirs.
Right.
But what we can control and what we are entirely responsible for are our own reactions. So taking responsibility for our emotions means instead of that knee-jerk blame when we feel hurt or offended.
Which is so easy to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the default sometimes. But instead, we consciously look inward. How can I manage this feeling? That shift is really the beginning of true mental strength because you're moving the control center from out there, the unpredictable world, to in here, your internal landscape. It's empowering rather than just demanding something from others that might never happen.
That's a huge distinction. It really flips the script on where the power lies, doesn't it? But okay, practically speaking, how do we do that? In the heat of the moment, when you're feeling hurt or misunderstood, and your first instinct is just to point the finger.
It starts with a pause, just a tiny one.
Not pause.
Yeah. Instead of immediate reaction, that little gap lets you first identify the emotion. Then you ask, okay, what story am I telling myself about this situation that's causing this feeling?
Yeah.
So, for example, someone says something you find dismissive and you feel hurt. The automatic thought might be, they don't respect me.
Right. Yeah.
Taking responsibility means pausing and questioning that story.
Uh,
Is that the only possible interpretation? Could there be other reasons? And even if they don't respect me, how do I choose to handle this feeling internally? It moves you from feeling like a victim of their words to being the agent of your own response.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Creating that little space for conscious choice. Which leads us nicely into the next point, actually. This idea that the world of I feel that isn't always reality. Our feelings are so strong, so immediate, it's incredibly easy to just assume they're the absolute truth of the situation.
It's really vital, first off, to acknowledge that our feelings are important. They're valid, they deserve respect, they are our experience. However, they aren't always the absolute truth. They're not necessarily objective facts about what's happening outside of us.
Yeah.
What we often miss is that feelings frequently come from our interpretations,
Hmm.
right? Or our beliefs, our personal history, maybe even past wounds that actually have very little to do with the current event.
Like that cancellation example you mentioned.
Exactly. Someone cancels plans, you feel rejected. That's your feeling, it's real. But the reality might be completely different: a sick child, an emergency. So the crucial skill is learning to differentiate between what actually happened, the objective facts, and how I interpreted it, my subjective emotional response. Understanding this helps us avoid falling into these unnecessary emotional traps where we're basically reacting to our own internal narrative, not the actual situation. When we really get that feelings are more like signals about our own mental state, internal indicators, rather than objective reports on the external world, then we can handle them much more wisely. They become useful data about us, not necessarily about them or the world.
That's a really insightful way to reframe it. It definitely sounds like a skill, a muscle we need to develop over time. What's a simple, maybe actionable habit you could adopt starting today to practice distinguishing between feeling and fact in daily life?
One technique, it's quite powerful, is something I call the fact check.
Okay.
When a strong emotion comes up, just ask yourself, what are the provable facts here? Like things you could show someone else. You
Mhm.
could even jot them down or just list them mentally. Then separately ask, okay, what am I feeling and what's the story I'm telling myself that's creating this feeling?
Mhm.
You'll often see a clear gap between the bare facts and your emotional interpretation. The point isn't to say the feeling is wrong, but to understand where it's coming from. It lets you address the root, which is often an assumption you haven't examined.
That's excellent. A practical tool to kind of interrupt that automatic emotional loop. And this is especially tough, I think, in our current age. Social media, instant communication, words just get thrown around constantly, often really irresponsibly, which brings us to the point that others' words aren't everything.
It's truly amazing how much mental real estate we often just give away to comments from others. Think about it.
Hmm.
Criticism, unsolicited advice, even compliments sometimes.
Yeah.
They might not actually reflect anything true about us.
Right.
More often, they reflect the speaker's perspective, their biases, maybe their own insecurities, or even just like their mood that day.
Mm.
So the source makes it really clear. Learning to filter these words, consciously deciding what's useful or true for you, and letting the rest, the harmful or irrelevant stuff, just flow past.
Yeah.
That's not just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It's pretty much essential for maintaining mental health in this hyper-connected world. It's like having an internal spam filter for your mind.
A mental spam filter. I love that analogy. Okay, so for you listening, just pause for a second. How much of your mental energy are you currently spending on every comment, every opinion, every bit of unsolicited advice that flies your way, online or offline?
Hmm.
Imagine reclaiming even some of that energy, not just for peace, but for things that genuinely matter to you.
It's a huge potential saving, isn't it? And this connects directly to our next point, which feels quite counterintuitive for many people, I think. It's this idea, the more we try to make others understand, the weaker and more painful it becomes.
Yeah, that one definitely goes against the grain. We want people to understand us.
Of course. It's completely natural, even, admirable in many ways to want to explain yourself, your intentions, your feelings. That
Uh-huh.
desire for connection, for validation, it's deeply human.
Mm-hmm.
But the source really highlights the danger zone. When that desire turns into an obsession to make everyone understand you, especially people who are just maybe unwilling or unable to get it.
Yeah.
That path inevitably leads to burnout, deep disappointment, and feeling really powerless.
Because you can't force understanding.
Exactly. So the liberating truth is, not everyone will understand us. And that has to be okay. It really is okay. Accepting that helps us save our precious energy. Save it for the people who do matter, for the issues that genuinely count, instead of just pouring it down this like bottomless pit of trying to explain. And linking back, the source suggests a powerful alternative sometimes.
Which is?
Sometimes silence, or just letting our actions speak for themselves, is far more effective and honestly more dignified than launching into thousands of words of explanation. Actions often cut through the noise more clearly, more authentically, especially when words have already failed to bridge the gap.
What's so fascinating there is that idea of reclaiming your energy. pulling it back from that endless cycle of trying to justify yourself. It prompts the question for you listening: who are you constantly trying to convince? And really, what is the cost to your own inner peace? It's a powerful reevaluation. In what kind of situations do you think silence or letting actions speak is the most potent strategy?
I think it's most powerful when emotions are running really high, or when you've already tried explaining and it's clear it's just not landing, or maybe the other person isn't really interested in understanding.
Right, when they've already made up their mind.
Precisely. Think about someone who seems determined to misunderstand you. Keep explaining, and you just give them more fuel for their narrative. In those moments, stepping back from the argument, just quietly continuing to live by your principles, letting your integrity show through your behavior, that's often a much stronger statement. It takes away their power to hook you emotionally.
That's a really powerful shift in strategy. Okay, finally, let's tackle something that drives so much pain and really shapes how we interact. Compromising ourselves to avoid being disliked may hurt us more. That fear of rejection is
Oh,
huge.
it's absolutely critical. This point gets right to the heart of so much human suffering, I think. That fear of being disliked, of being rejected, it's a massive motivator for so many people. And it causes us, often unconsciously, to sacrifice our authentic selves just to gain acceptance.
We put on a mask.
Exactly. We put on a mask, we perform, but this constant performance, it's utterly exhausting. It leaves you feeling anxious, disconnected, and ultimately kind of empty inside. And the source is really clear. Any love or acceptance you get while wearing that mask isn't genuine. It's conditional. It depends on you keeping up the act.
And masks eventually slip.
They always do. And when that mask inevitably slips or falls, the pain and the disillusionment that follows is often way worse than if you just risked rejection by being yourself from the start. So the true path, the source emphasizes, is actually finding the courage to be ourselves
Mm.
fully, without apology, and accepting that, yes, some people won't like us. Understanding that's their choice is not actually a statement about our inherent worth. That is the path to real freedom and genuine happiness. Authentic self-acceptance allows for real connections to eventually bloom, but only with the right people who resonate with the real you.
Wow. So this really brings up an important question for you listening. Where in your life might you be wearing a mask? And what could be the true cost of that performance, not just to your energy, but to your sense of self, your genuine happiness? It's a brave question, for sure, but maybe essential for finding real peace. Phew. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, journeying through this art of letting go for inner peace. I think the big takeaway, the overarching theme that our source material really hammers home is that letting go isn't about apathy. It's not about not caring. Instead, it's an active, conscious process. It's about wisely choosing where you invest your emotional energy, where you engage, and where you, well, allow things to simply pass by. It's about being deliberate.
Absolutely. And just to connect it all, creating those clear boundaries between yourself and other people's opinions, their words, their unspoken expectations, that isn't weakness. It is actually probably the most vital form of self-care there is. It's laying the groundwork for a stable, resilient, emotional life. And here's the beautiful part. When we are strong from within, when our emotional tanks are full, because we stop letting them leak out on things that don't serve us, then we can genuinely offer love, compassion, real help to others without feeling depleted. We give from a place of abundance, not from lack or simmering resentment.
Giving from abundance, not lack. That's powerful. So, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Here's a final thought to maybe mull over this week. Consider one area in your life where you might be giving from that place of lack because you haven't quite let something go. What one small act of mindful self care? Maybe it's setting a boundary, maybe trying that fact check, maybe just consciously letting a comment slide. What small act could start shifting you towards giving from abundance instead? And what impact might that single shift have, not just on your inner peace, but maybe surprisingly on the quality of your relationships too? Keep diving deep into what truly brings you peace.